evening, I am going to discuss to you the basic commands in AutoCAD. Few of the basic commands in AutoCAD. I'm going to discuss drawing commands and modifying commands. So first is the polyline. P-line for short. So it creates a 2D polyline, a single object that is composed of line and arc segments. So here's the icon of P-line. It has a straight line and a curve segments. The following prompts are displayed when you specify the starting point. It sets the starting point for the polyline. So a temporary plus shape marker displays at the first point. Then pressing enter starts a new polyline from the last endpoint specified in creating a polyline, line, or arc. And you specify the next point. If you specify the second point, you create a straight segments. And if you want to convert that that line segment into arc, just enter A. And then you create arc segments. So here's my demo. Enter 1.2, 1.2, 1.2 close. So we move 1. So that's PL. Because if line alone, say 1.2, 1.2, 1.2 close. So when you move, bungkag siya. So this is P line. This is P line. This is line. Line command. And if you want to create RTL, say 1.2, you can arc, and then 1.2, say this one. No. So P line with arc segment. Yes. So another application. So PL starting point, and you want to half width, you want to thicken 0.1. So you can thicken the lines. So P line with half width. So close arc. This is using the half width. So if you want to change this is using P line arc. Okay. You want to return to PL. So just click and 0 and 0. Okay. The next is the rectangle or rectangular. It creates a rectangular polyline. Here's the icon. Creates a rectangular polyline from the specified rectangle parameters, the length, the width, and the rotation, and the type of corners like fillet, chamfer, or square. So you could customize the rectangular into such type of corners. So the following prompts are displayed. For the current settings, for the default, it's the rotation is 0. But if you want to make to make a rectangular which is 45 degrees inclined, you can do that. So you specify the first corner point, and then you can change it. You can activate the chamfer, the elevation, the fillet, thickness, and width, and then you specify the point or enter an option. So first corner, specify corner point of the rectangle, and then the other corner point creates a rectangle using a specified points as a diagonally opposite corners. Okay, so here's my demo for that. So I'm going to show you how to use the rectangular command. First is rect, and specify the first corner, and you click the dimension, and put the dimension, which is 1 point, let's say 1.5. Then the second, the width is, let's say 2 meters. So that's the rectangle. If you want to rotate it, so you just click rotation and specify the rotation. Let's say 45 degrees rotation, and the dimension. So let's say as is 1.5, and so your drawing is rotated to 45. And if it's area, you want if you would, let's say the data is area rect. So you specify the corner. You want to put it back to 0, and the data you have is only the area. So you put, let's say 6 square meters, and you specify the length like 3, example 3. Okay. So that's when you use the area. This is how you create the rectangle using the area. Can also change the edges of the rectangle, the chamfer and fillet. So again, rect, and before you specify the first corner, you click the chamfer, and you would change this, for example, to 0.2. Yeah, 0.2. Again. So rect, we want to change, rect, we want to change the edges. So you click chamfer. So let's say 0.3. Specify second chamfer is 0.3. And this one, this is the chamfer, the edge, the inclined edge of the rectangle, and you click dimension. So the dimension, for example, is 1.2 on the length. The width is 0.6. So it's not doable because the chamfer is 0.3. So it's not doable if you put 0.6 the dimension. So you make the dimension bigger to accommodate the chamfer. So we'll change the length into 2, and then the width would be 1. So this is the rectangle with chamfer. This is the chamfer. Okay, rect, chamfer. This is rect with application of rotation. Then dimension. This is rect using the area. Okay. So another is rect. We will use the fillet. Fillet, let's say 0.1. Yes, 0.1. So specify first corner and dimension. Let's say 1 and then 0.6. So you see this. Again, let's make it bigger. So rect, fillet, we'll make it bigger, 0.3, and first corner dimension is dimension is 2 by 1. So here is rectangle with fillet on the edges. Okay, so next drawing command is the ellipse. So it creates an ellipse or an elliptical arc. So here is the icon for the ellipse. So first 2 points of ellipse determine the location and length of the first axis. So the first axis is the full length. And then the third point determines the distance between the center of the ellipse and the end point of the second axis. So it's half the length of the second axis. The following prompts are displayed. So axis endpoint defines the first axis by its two endpoints. The angle of the first axis determines the angle of the ellipse. The first axis can define either the major or the minor axis of the ellipse. Okay, so here's my demo. Command ellipse. The shortcut is ELL. Enter. And you would click the first point and the second point for the first axis. Then the third axis would be the third point would be the other axis, the distance here. This is the ellipse. So for example, there's no guide here. Just click the first point, and then you would put the length of the first axis, which is 3, and this is 3, and the next would be the distance here. So you put the value of the next axis, the half length of the other axis, the y-axis. So let's say 1. So here's the ellipse without the guide. Shortcut is EL. Okay, so the fourth drawing command is the polygon. So it creates an equilateral closed polyline. Okay, so here's the icon. So you specify the number of sides of the polygon and whether it is inscribed or circumscribed. The following prompts are displayed. So first, you input the number of sides. You specify the number of sides in Polygon. So it starts with the number 3 and ends with 1024 sides. Okay, you can create 1024 sides, but 1025 you can't. It will not be doable anymore. So the center of the polygon, you specify the location of the center of the polygon and whether the new object is inscribed or circumscribed. Inscribed meaning the polygon is inside the circle here. So specify the radius of a circle on which all vertices of the polygon lie. So, and then the edge is the edge of the polygon. So defines a polygon by specifying the endpoints of the first edge. So you have two choices in creating polygons. It's either you use the circle, you input the radius, or you input the length of the edge of one edge. So specifying the radius of your pointing device determines the rotation and size of the polygon. Specifying the radius of the value draws the bottom edge of the polygon at the current snap rotation angle. While the circumscribe about the circle, specify the distance from the center of the polygon to the midpoints of the edges of the polygon. Okay, so the polygon is outside the circle. Specifying the radius with your pointing device determines the rotation and size of polygon. Specifying the radius with the value draws the bottom edge of polygon at the current snap rotation angle. Okay, so here's my demo. The polygon command, the shortcut for polygon is POL. Then you would specify the sides you want to create, how many sides of polygon you want to create. And next is when you use the center of the polygon, you will click the center. So this is the guide, the circle guide, so that you'll know the the difference between inscribe or circumscribe. So you click the center, and then uh, the C or circumscribe is activated here. So I'll just click enter and specify the radius of the circle. The radius of the circle is 1. So I'm going to put 1 here. So that's it. So circumscribe outside the circle. But when you want to make a inscribe, just put I, activate the I, and then you can if you have guide, you can always drag the sides here and just click. So it's inside the circle inscribe. So I'm going to demonstrate without the circle guide. I'll create a horizontal line 2, just to make sure that the 2 polygon that I am going to create have the same center point. Okay? Okay, so POL, I want, let's say, 8 sides, and then I'll click the center here, and circumscribe is activated, and the radius is 1, and then I'll just enter, and then enter, and I'll click the center of the edge, and I activate the inscribe, and I put the radius 1. So this is uh, the same uh, diameter of a circle, which is 2. I'll just copy the circle here, just to make a point. The the circumscribe and the inscribe, the difference between the inscribe and the circumscribe. Okay, this is polygon what's this, center. You are using the center point. So how about when you the data is given, the data given is the length of the edge. So just put POL and then specify how many sides of the polygon you want, and you activate the edge, and then you specify the first point of the edge, and then the second. You can directly click at the monitor, or just specify the length, which is let's say 1. So this is when you measure the edge of the polygon. When you measure it, it's 0.5. It's 1. Okay, so polygon edge, you're activating the edge instead of using the center point and the circle. Okay, so for the next command is the array command. From the command line, creates copies of objects arranged in. So we are now in modifying commands. So it's not the drawing commands wherein you draw the object, but this one is you can modify the object by duplicating the object, or making it big, or stretching the object, or just simply modify its original state. So from the command line, creates copies of objects arranged in a pattern. So maintains legacy command line behavior for creating non-associative 2D rectangular or polar arrays. The following prompts are displayed. Select object. Select one or more objects to use as a basis for the array. The type of array specifies whether to create rectangular or polar array. There's two types. So first is the rectangular. So creates an array of rows and columns of copies of selected objects. So you have to this type of command applies on when you draw um, when you want to multiply objects in rows and columns. Okay, so this is the distance of rows between rows and the distance in between columns, and this is the object selected. Then the polar creates an array by copying the selected objects around a specified center point. So radial, the distribution is radial. So in a polar array, the reference point of the last object is in selection set is used for all objects. If you define the selection set by using window or crossing selection, the last object in the selection set is arbitrary. Removing an object from the selection set and adding it back forces that object to be the last object selected. You can also make the selection set into a block and replicate it. So the prompt values of you enter determine whether the array configuration is based on the number of items or the angle that is filled by the array items. So the center point of the array specifies the central location of the array. So this is the central. So it's in radial distribution. So here's my demo for that. Circle with radius of 0.2. So I will duplicate this into a rectangular array. So ARRAY, select the object you want to duplicate, and then activate the rectangular and set the columns. The columns, I want it to be 5, and the distance would be 1 for each column, and the rows would be 4, and the distance would be -1 to make the rows go down the original object. So here it is. This is the value current. Okay. So exit. Okay. So here's the one way to duplicate an object using array. So how about polar array? So I create an object to duplicate. See, the diameter is 0.2. So I'll type in array, then I'll select the object, and then I activate the polar, and I'll specify the center, and I'll click the fill angle, which is 360 degrees, and then enter. Use the value current feedback. So angle is, I want it to be 360. Yeah, this one. 360. So um, there's, if you want, you can change it to 180 degrees. Okay, and you can rotate them, you can change the numbers. So I'll change the numbers. Yes, the array numbers. I want to change the items to, I will change it to, let's say, 8. Yes. Items, this one. Items will change to 8. So I'm gonna change to 8. So you just change the figures here, angle between, or fill angle, or rows, or you want it to be 360 degrees, you change the fill angle to 360 degrees. Okay, so that's it. That's the array, the polar array. Let's make the array path, the path array. The value recorded. Okay. Say circle B 4. So here's the path. Array, select object, and then create the path. This is the path of the curve. You can change the items, you can change the rows. For example, items, I want it to be 0.3, or I want it to be 10, or want it to have 2 meters, 10, or 5. So that's how you let's say 0.1, and let's say 3. The row goes here. So that's the polar path. Okay. Okay. So the second command, a modifying command, creates concentric circles, parallel lines, and parallel curves. I think I have introduced this command to you the last lecture video that I made, the offset. Shortcut for this is O. Here's the icon. If you are using the toolbars, you can find it. You can find, you'll know the icon of the offset by this shape. So you can you offset an object at a specified distance or through a point. After you offset objects, you can trim and extend them as an efficient method to create drawings containing many parallel lines and curves. So in application of drawing, architectural drawings, this is applied in making walls. Okay, as you can see at the illustration. The offset command repeats for convenience. To exit the command, you press enter. So the offset command repeats for, okay. So the following prompts are displayed. Offset distance creates an object at a specified distance from an existing object. So here, and then the side selected, and then object offset. So exits the offset commands when you want to exit the offset command. And then multiple enters the multiple offset mode, which repeats the offset operation using the current offset distance. Okay. Undo reverse the previous offset, and through creates an object passing through a specified point. Okay, so here's my demo. Okay, for the offset, O, enter. You specify the distance, let's say 0.2, and then you select and point outside to where your direction would be. So that's offset. Okay, so the third modifying command is the mirror. So mirror, the shortcut for mirror is MI. It creates a mirrored copy of a selected object. So here's the icon. If you draw half of my face, you can mirror it. So that's the function of the mirror. You can create object that represents half of a drawing, select them, and mirror them across a specified line to create the other half. So as you can see at the illustration, you draw the first half, and then you can mirror it to make a whole object. So note, by default, when you mirror a text or object, the direction of the text is not changed. Set the mirror text system variable to 1 if you want the text to be reversed. So by default, it's not reversed. So if you want to reverse the text, you do this step. Okay, so here's my demo. Okay, for the command mirror, you type in MI, shortcut for mirror, and you select the object to be mirrored, and you click the first point of the mirror. So I want this first point here, and the second would be here, and then enter. And if you want to delete the source object, you would say yes. But if you don't want to delete the source object, you will say no. So that's it. Okay, so the fourth modifying command is the scale. The scale enlarges or reduces selected objects, keeping the proportions of the object the same after scaling. So here's the icon. To scale an object, specify a base point and a scale factor. The base point acts as the center of the scaling operation and remains stationary. A scale factor greater than 1 enlarges the object. A scale factor between 0 and 1 shrinks the object. Okay, so the following prompts are displayed. Select object, specify which object you want to resize. The base point, specify the base point of the scale operation. The base point of you specify identifies the point that remains in the same location as the selected object. Change a size and thus move away from the stationary base point. Note, when you use the scale command with annotative object, the position or location of the object is scaled relative to the base point of the scale operation, but the size of the object is not changed. So the scale factor multiplies the dimension of the selected objects by the specified scale. A scale factor greater than 1 enlarges the objects. As a scale factor between 0 and 1 shrinks the object. You can also drag the cursor to make the object larger or smaller. Then copy, you can create a copy of the selected object for scaling. And for reference, scales the selected object based on the reference length and a specified new length. For me, I use this a lot, the reference, because you have a reference length and then you just put the new length. So it's much, I find it much more easier. It's easier than um, the other ways, like the scale factor and the base point. You type SC, shortcut for scale, and you select the object. So I'll also select the 1 so that you'll know, and you specify the base point. I'll use this as a base point here, and see that the dimension changes as I move my mouse and cursor. You can just leave it resizing by clicking, or you want it to be more accurate by typing the reference, by activating the reference point, meaning you specify your length. So my original length, the reference length is 1 meter, so I'll put 1 here, and then the new length would be, I would say, 0.5. So the object change its size. And then the fifth modifying command is the stretch. It's a very simple modifying command. You can stretch the object to change its position and its segments. So stretches objects crossed by selection window or polygon. So here's the icon. Objects that are partially enclosed by a crossing window are stretched. Objects that are completely enclosed within a crossing window or that are selected individually are moved rather than stretched. So one example is the circles. Some types of objects such as circles, ellipse, and blocks cannot be stretched. Okay. So you stretch the object. If this is a circle, it will just move. It will just move if it's a circle, or if it's a line. Say a line. It will stretch at the end. But if you will peak at the middle, it will move. So that's a stretch. Okay, the sixth modifying command is the trim. Trims object to meet the edges of other objects. Just trim, like you're trimming your hair. So it should be the two objects should cross each other in order for you to trim. Okay, to trim objects, select the boundaries and press enter. Then select the objects that you want to trim. To use all objects are boundaries, press enter at the first select objects prompt. Okay, so I will just since this the following commands are short, I will just the demo would be at the end of the lecture. Okay, so the next is the extend modifying command. It's the opposite of the trim, wherein if there is two object and then you want the object to reach the boundary, so it's an opposite of the trim. So to extend the object, first select the boundaries, then press enter and select the object that you want to extend. To use all objects as boundaries, press enter at the first select object prompt. Okay, next is the fillet. So fillet command rounds or fillets the edges of two 2D objects or the adjacent faces of a 3D solid. So you have seen the fillet on my demo on the rectangular command. So this command will have a result like of the rectangle, but you can use this command when even if it's not a rectangle shape. You can use this command even on just two lines, and then you want to meet the two lines with a radius or a curve on its corner. So a round or fillet is an arc that is created tangent between two 2D objects, curved transition between two surfaces or adjacent faces on a 3D solid. In this example, an arc is created tangent to selected lines, which are trimmed to meet the endpoints of the arc. Okay, the demo would be at the end part of this lecture. The next one is chamfer, modifying command. So bevels or chamfers the edges of two 2D objects or the adjacent faces of a 3D solid. Here's the icon. A bevel or a chamfer is an angled line that meets the endpoint of two straight 2D objects. A sloped transition between two surfaces or adjacent faces on a 3D solid. So the distance and angles that you specify are applied in order to that you select the object. So again, you've seen this on my demo on the rectangle command. You can use chamfer even though it's not a rectangle, even though you just have two objects or two lines. You want to meet them with bevels. Okay, so the last modifying command is the break. This command breaks the selected object between 2 points. So here's the icon. You can create a gap between two specified points on an object, breaking it into two objects. If the points are off of an object, they are automatically projected onto the object. Break is often used to create a space for a block or a text. So the prompts that are displayed depend on how you select the object. If you select the object by using your pointing device, the program both selects the object and treats the selected point as the first breakpoint. At the next prompt, you can continue by specifying the second point or by overriding the first point. Type TR, enter. You select the object or you want to select all, and then enter, and then you select the object that you want to remove. For example, this one. So that's a trim. For the command extend, type EX, enter. You select all the object, enter, and then you select the object that you want to extend. That's extend. For the command fillet, you type F, enter, and then change the radius, R, enter. Let's say you want this line, horizontal line and vertical line to meet at a radius of 0.5. So 0.5, enter. you select the two objects. So that's a fillet. So for the command chamfer, you type CHA, enter, and click the distance. Change the distance to, you want to chamfer from this distance is 0.3, and then this one is, let's say, 0.6. Then select the object. So that's chamfer. And then for the command break, BR, you want to break this line here, and then that one. If you want to break a line, or you. Okay, so that's the end of my lecture. So your activity for this week, you draw draw these objects using the commands that I discussed earlier, and same as before, that you would submit to me the documentation video, the CAD file, as well as the PDF file of this activity. So I hope that before our synchronous class next week, next Saturday, I hope that you'd be able to to do this, or experience doing the or experience using the commands that I've discussed, so that if there are difficulties or questions that you've encountered, you can ask me on our synchronous during our synchronous class. So I hope that you've learned something from this video lecture, and I hope to see you on our synchronous class, and keep safe.